Welcome to the Thought Brothers. Today, January 17, 2024. We got our panel together. Everybody's here. They bright eyes. It's a little cold, but we still got it. We just layered up. So speaking of layered up, somebody who just layered with money, let's talk to the banker man. Carlos, what's going on?
Come on, guys. You know what's going on.
You got 10 minutes. It's all yours.
10 minutes?
It's all
I
yours.
got 10 minutes. Hey, look, before I get to the NFL, let me go ahead and give my man Jim Harbaugh a shout out in Michigan. He said, what does he say? Who's got it better? Nobody? Well, I guess they may have it better in San Diego or Atlanta, because that's where he's been interviewing at for head coaching positions. Maybe they got it better. I don't know. But my man Jim Harbaugh has done a great job up in Michigan, and I guess he's testing the waters of the NFL, which is very interesting because one of the spots, like I said, he interviewed, from what I heard, in San Diego. Hey, great weather. I can't knock that one. Atlanta, great city, but also Bill Belichick's interviewing in Atlanta as well. So that's going to be an interesting decision to see which way they go. And then really, Jim Harbaugh is still in a position to say no. Like, they can say, hey, we'll pay you $15 million a year. He's like, Michigan will probably pay me 20. I'll stay in Michigan. So Bill Belichick, I don't think he has as many opportunities. I've only heard he's interviewed with the Atlanta Falcons. I'm sure somebody else may look at him, possibly Dallas if Jerry Jones. I think Jerry Jones is still thinking about what happened this weekend. So we have to take a look at that at a closer look. But congratulations to Coach Harbaugh up there in Michigan. I think he has put together a fantastic program. And like I said, college football is as exciting as ever. And with the new lineup next year, with the power conferences and the 12 teams in the college football playoff, man, college football is getting it done. So much respect to Jim Harbaugh, NCAA, etc. Now, with that being said, this is the part where I would turn to Mr. Spive and say, how about them Cowboys? But look, I actually had Dallas winning because they were at home. They were 8-0 at home. So I'm thinking Dallas is going to pull this out, right? I didn't see that diesel truck coming down the road with number 10 Jordan Love driving it. 27-0 start. At one point, it was 48-16. And then it ended up 48-32 because I think, Green Bay went ahead and put the backup quarterback in, and Dallas started to come back a little bit. It's, Jordan Love, get back out there. But anyway, final score, 48-32. We did not see that coming. I think that I was at the point where I don't like the Cowboys, but I was starting to feel like the Cowboys, if they want a different result, they're going to have to do something different, right? You can't keep the same coach, win 12 games every year, and lose in the first round of the playoffs. It's not working. I'm thinking they may have to look at a different coach and a different quarterback if they want a different result. Because, again, it's very easy to say, hey, they'll win 12 games next year, and they're going to lose in the first round again. So I don't know if that's going to keep playing out in Dallas or not. I don't think them Texas fans going to like that. I think Jerry Jones is pretty much just taking one of those moments where he's just totally chilling out. He's trying to meditate a little bit. He doesn't want to have a knee-jerk reaction. So we will see. I was like, woosah, whatever. Woosah. He's going to do something like that. So with that being said, on the other side of the sidelines at Texas Stadium, or what's that, AT&T Stadium, Jordan Love and the youngest team in the NFL look like they are ready to take command for the next 10 years. They got a young head coach. They got a young quarterback. And it's the youngest team in the NFL. Man, I'm just looking. I want to see what they go. If they go up to San Francisco and upset San Francisco, oh, man, just put them down for the next 5 to 7 years. That's your new dynasty. But with that being said, I'm still going with one of my underdogs. I told you the Detroit Lions are hungry, man. The Detroit Lions want to win. The Detroit Lions took care of the Rams. Jared Goff was seen laughing at a picture of Coach, McVay in the locker room. Y'all shouldn't have traded me. You shouldn't have traded me. I told you. I'm much younger than your current quarterback, and I'm better too. So, the Rams sold their soul for one season, right? And they did win the Super Bowl, but they sold their soul. They sold the young quarterback for the older quarterback, and Goff is probably going to be in the NFL, another 7, 8, 9 years after Stafford. So, and Detroit's on the upswing. Their coach is fairly young. He's getting it done. He's hungry. Man, he is making things happen up there. So that's going to be an interesting game this week coming up. So keep your eye on Detroit. I'm still picking Detroit to play Baltimore in the Super Bowl. But that boy DeMeco Ryans, head coach down in Houston? Come on, man. He is getting it done. They showed up with their quarterback. Was it Stroud? Come on, man. I'm talking about I must-see TV. I want to see Green Bay play every week, and I want to see your boys, the Houston Texans, play every week. They getting it done, man. They look like an organized football team. It don't take long to win a playoff game. What? Rookie coach, rookie quarterback? Come on, man. Come on, Jerry Jones. What you gonna do? What you gonna do, man? But look,
Mr. Spivey, I know you ain't gonna sit there and take that. I know you not.
No, I'm gonna sit here and take it. I'm gonna let him talk.
Hey, look.
He sounds just like the people I heard on Undisputed and what is that, First Take? Sounds just like an echo. The only thing I would say to you is I'm gonna say the same thing that Shannon Sharpe said earlier this week. I get totally sick and tired of every time a team loses that the coach is always to blame. The coach does not throw no passes. The coach doesn't kick no field goals. And guess what? McCarthy didn't put up 48 points. Green Bay did. So what you need to start doing sometime is player accountability. The other night, I saw a player catch a pass during the game with Tampa Bay. He had 4 defensive players around him. And where did he end up? In the end zone. Do you want to blame the coach for that? It's just like the Washington Commanders, since you want to talk about the Cowboys.
Go ahead, get it.
You all always put it on 2 people. You put it on the coach and you put it on the quarterback. I've been here since 1980. I have not seen 1 year since 1980 that you all have not had a quarterback controversy. You had RG3, one of the best quarterbacks that you could have drafted, and you didn't win nothing. But think about this. You put it on RG3, you put it on the coach. But during that time, Sean McVay, who you just talked about, Kyle Shanahan, also the coach from Green Bay, Flores, all of them were in Washington at the same time coaching RG3. So why couldn't he be a winner? They all left and went to other teams. No, let me finish. They all left and went to other teams, and they got Super Bowls, but they couldn't get one at Washington. You know why? You put all your eggs in the quarterback and the coach. Get a defensive line and let a quarterback be able to take more than 2 steps before he's looking at 600, 800 pounds staring him in the face. So, the only thing I'm going to say to you is you need player accountability. And last but not least, Dallas needs a new coach. Dallas needs a new quarterback. Who do you suggest as the new coach and the new quarterback to take them through a playoff?
Well, I'll tell you like this. Let me answer all those questions because I know my time's running short. But here's the deal. The bottom line is the Washington Commanders currently are probably the worst team in the NFL, okay? The bottom line, and it started with Dan Snyder's leadership for 25 years, okay? When Bobby Beathard was the general manager and president of that team, they found players. Their backups were sometimes better than their starters when they went to those 4 Super Bowls in 12 years, okay? So that's who was running the team back then, Bobby Beathard. Jack Kent Cooke was a little eccentric, okay? He was a great owner. He had owned the Lakers for years. He had the Forum built in L.A. He won championships in L.A. But the bottom line is Bobby Beathard was a great general manager. He found Joe Gibbs. They worked great together, even though I heard they bumped heads. And after both of those guys were gone, that organization's just been terrible. Dan Snyder just came in and made it worse. I checked out the winning percentages for all the coaches since he's been there. Okay, you're not gonna believe this. Okay, Jim Zorn, what was it? Our guy who just left, Ron Rivera, won about 40% of his games. Was it Gruden? The other Gruden won about 40% of his games. Was it Jeff?
Jay Gruden. Jay
Gruden won about 40%. So you got Ron Rivera at 40%, Jay Gruden at 40%. You got Jim Zorn for like, what was he, 1 or 2 seasons at 40%. Okay. Mm-hmm. The only one who came back when Joe Gibbs came out of retirement the second time, he won 47%, and in 4 seasons went to the playoffs twice and won a playoff game, which was which was terrible for him by his standards, but it's probably we would take that any day now. So I think the key is they are the worst organization in sports. We're going to see how good this new assistant is from the San Francisco 49ers to see if he can make a difference in Washington. But he's coming in the right way. He took the job not because it's a great job. He took the job because it's a terrible job. And if he comes in and hires the right coach and they start doing success, he can write his ticket to whatever salary and whatever position. He might be NFL commissioner if he can turn this franchise around. So that's
time,
baby. Let's do it.
CJ, you want to get in on this before we go to the next module?
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about the Cowboys is I think it might be more of a psychological thing about playing in Dallas, being America's team, being, so in the media so much. Because like I said, like Mr. Spivey was saying, it's not like they have a bad coach. It's not like they have bad players. It's not like they have a lack of talent or like the Commanders or other teams. Like the Cowboys are good every year, but that train is never late, that they're going to collapse in the playoffs. Like no one... Like, I didn't even watch the game live. I just looked at and sure enough, the Cowboys were doing what the Cowboys do in the playoffs. They collapse no matter how good their team is, no matter how much talent. And I think the coach should be fine, but I'm still not sold on Dak Prescott being like an elite quarterback. Like, I think he's good. He's better than most. I think he's a top 15-esque quarterback. He can play really well, but at the same time, his deep accuracy is always spotty when it needs to be accurate. And I don't know, he just doesn't seem like he might not be the guy. But again, I don't recommend getting rid of him until you have a better solution. So it's not just make a knee-jerk reaction and replace the quarterback and coach. You got to figure out why they consistently keep getting the same results, no matter how much talent is on the team.
Okay, I can see Dak. If they let Dak go, he'd go to some other team, man, and go
and
go deep into the playoffs, man.
and eat your lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as Stephen A. Smith said, I think the phrase he uses, the Cowboys always wet the bed.
But the thing that really, but I've watched it over the past week, and
you up? We're gonna get you. You up now? Okay. Go ahead.
I've watched it over the past week, and it's really amazing how these analysts and these supposedly football gurus, they always want to blame the coach. Now, a few days ago, they were talking about Tomlin needed to be replaced at Pittsburgh. You're going to replace Tomlin, 17 years, never had a losing season. Had 3 quarterbacks this year that were crap and still made it to the playoffs. Who are you going to replace him with? They talked about one of the other coaches that they needed to replace that's had a winning season. You got to start doing player accountability. When you start, I can't stress it enough. The coach does not play defense. McCarthy did not now you got defensive coordinators. I agree with you. And sometimes it may be the defensive coordinator's not setting things up. But then you blame the coach because he's the one that hired the defensive coordinator. But Dallas, as CJ said, they've been playing good all year. They just automatically ran into a roadblock. And I talked to a guy right before the game. And he said to me, well, it looked like y'all going to be moving on. And I told him, I said, I'm not counting it as a win simply because they're playing in Texas Stadium. And think about it. They have not lost a game in Texas Stadium in the last 2 years. But they turned around and lost that. But the test will be this week as to see what Jordan Love does when he goes into the San Francisco 49ers home. And let's see if he does the same thing to them that he did to Dallas. Because I don't know what the odds are. Carlos, what do you think is going to happen this week?
I mean, I got to go with San Francisco, man. I mean, I think Jordan Love and the Packers are a young team. They won a playoff game. San Francisco's just a solid team. I mean, they solid in all areas: offense, defense, running game, passing game. I mean, they were talking about Brock Purdy being an MVP candidate until Lamar Jackson just totally destroyed the league the last few weeks. But I mean, I think San Francisco I'm gonna go San Francisco by 14. Okay, by 14. I'm thinking 38-24, and I think what will happen is the game will be close in the second half, And I think San Francisco will just pull it away. San Francisco will get that touchdown. They'll be up 31-24. And I think Green Bay will be trying to pressure and throw deep to try to come back and might get a pick six to make it 38-24. I don't think it'll be a 38-24 where it's 38-10 starting out. I think it'll be a close game, and San Francisco's going to pull away because they're just a better team. That's just my take.
What do you think, CJ?
Yeah, I have a similar take. I think San Francisco is going to come through, but like I said, the Packers are definitely on the way up. They're definitely on the way up. They definitely should be commended for having the basically the balls to draft Jordan Love, because like I said, at the time, very controversial decision, and it worked out for them in two ways for the Packers. One, it lit a fire under Aaron Rodgers at the time, so they got a couple better years out of Aaron Rodgers from him feeling slighted that they picked his replacement and him wanting to show them up. And then they got a bunch of value for Aaron Rodgers to be able to build around Love now and to have a lot of assets and weapons for him. And he had no pressure, that he could have taken his time to learn and develop. And now it's looking pretty for them. So they have to be commended for making that pick that they got lambasted for when they took it at the time. And now it's looking like a bright future in Green Bay. But I don't know about this weekend. I don't know if they get through the 49ers.
Personally, I think it's just karma that's come full circle. Because if you remember, Rodgers was the one that replaced Brett Favre. And there was a whole lot of controversy when they brought Rodgers in for Brett Favre. And now it's come full circle. Jordan Love has come in for Aaron Rodgers. Another thing I wanted to bring up is all of this talk about Belichick. You know, one of the things that concerns me is that in this NFL game, it's like it's a retread game. A coach, Ron Rivera, gets fired from the Panthers, and within 1 week, Washington hires him. He was a losing coach at the Panthers. Now Washington says, "Oh, come here, take over our team," and all of a sudden you're going to be blessed with some wisdom, and you're going to be a winning coach. Now he's been a losing coach at Washington. I don't know why people are comparing and saying Belichick is the hottest thing on the market right now. Belichick has been a loser for 3 years. He's been a loser ever since he got rid of Tom Brady. Brady did not want to leave New England. Belichick wanted Brady out because he felt he could win without Brady. So now what has happened, he loses, 3 years? If I'm an owner of a team, and probably I'm glad I'm not a billionaire, because if I was the owner of the team and my general manager came to me and told me, "Look, I'm thinking we should hire Belichick. I want to win a Super Bowl. I do not want a coach that's got a 3-year losing record." I would say to him, "Well, let's go to the Rams, who's got a good offense. Let's look at their offensive coordinator. Let's go to San Francisco. See, can we poach their offensive coordinator?" I don't understand the theory and the logic behind hiring losing coaches and just moving them around the beltway, I guess, as you want to put it. Does anyone have an explanation? Or
Good old boys club.
Yep, I was about to say, yeah, it's relationships, it's nepotism. There's, like I said, the personal, kickbacks, backroom deals, and relationships. It's that. That's why when the Commanders were here, Rex Grossman was our quarterback, because he's friends and with the coaches, and his daughter-in-law married somebody. It's all that. That's why we get a lot of mediocrity sticking around the league, and a lot of teams not hiring based on merit, but based on these connections.
Well, think about it, man. How many coaches in the league came? McVay's the grandson of the New York Giants coach, McVay. McVay with the Rams. I mean, we know Shanahan's the son of Shanahan. I mean, these guys weren't pro players or college superstars. Their families got them. And Belichick didn't even play college football. He was a high school center. His father, he stuck around. His father was a coach at Naval Academy, and he got an internship with the Colts, Baltimore Colts. And so I think he was delivering coffee at one point, and he worked his way up somehow. So I think it goes on and on to Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio's sons, both working on the Washington Commanders staff. So it is backroom deals. There's a lot of connections. I think the key is you just hope that if you can't stop those backroom connections, you hope somebody's actually pretty good. I'm gonna throw one more at you because Mr. Spivey, your defensive coordinator was the reason Dallas lost that game. They couldn't shut down a young quarterback and a young team. And Dan Quinn is the same defensive coordinator who lost another big game versus Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, where the Falcons were blowing out the Patriots. And Dan Quinn was the head coach of the team that had the greatest lost the Super Bowl with the greatest comeback in the history of Super Bowl in overtime. So all I got to say with that is, maybe you should keep McCarthy. Maybe you should give Dak another go, but you need to hopefully Dan Quinn, they say he's a candidate for a head coaching job. I'm just going to say, Washington, don't hire him. Let him go somewhere else. And if Dallas can get a defensive coordinator can actually shut somebody down in a big game, then maybe you'll be okay. Now, Quinn had a good season, but again, it was against a lot of teams that weren't that good. You get a really good team coming in there, and it looks like Quinn didn't do too well. So,
well, I think what happened with Quinn was Quinn did have a good season, and Dallas defense did play well.
Yeah.
But what happened was Green Bay came in, as CJ uses the term, came in with a new skit. And what happened was Dan Quinn couldn't adjust. And this is what happens a lot of times when you have these aged coaches that have been around and all of a sudden a new skit comes in or a new formation. I mean, you think about that Dallas game. Green Bay's flanker caught 2 passes for touchdowns, and there was nobody within 10 yards of him. So that tells you he could not adjust to the new offense. So, as you said, Carlos, last week, the elephant in the room, the reason they keep moving these coaches around from team to team is because sooner or later, the Rooney Rule is going to pop up on them.
Oh, we got somebody up in New England. After 20 years, when we only had 3 black coaches in the NFL, 20 years later, we still got 3. I take that back. January 17th, 2024, they announced the 4th black head coach. It's up, was it Gerard Mayo? Is that his name? Up in New England. How about that?
If he loses a game, they're going to be inventing new slurs up there, as I feel.
Well, wait a minute. Didn't the guy get the head coaching job for the Raiders?
For who?
Antonio Pierce.
No, I don't think so.
Not yet. No, not officially.
Yeah. He should have got it. He definitely turned that team around, but we'll see. But Pierce, I like Pierce, but don't know.
All right, CJ, the clock starts now, and then we're going to come back and do our round robin. So if you got some stuff, don't worry, we're coming back. It's on you, CJ.
All right, I'm going to pivot to politics, and we had the Iowa caucus yesterday for the GOP primary, which is going to kind of set the table for where they are in their presidential race. And to no one's surprise, Donald Trump dominated the caucus. He won by like 50 points in like 10 minutes. Like before it started, it was immediately over. And Ron DeSantis came in at a weak 2nd place, and then Nikki Haley in 3rd. But who I really wanted to highlight, who I think is the most interesting participant of the caucus itself, was Vivek Ramaswamy, who has had some momentum. He was trying to position himself as kind of like a younger version of Trump. He's very favorable to Trump. It's kind of weird since he's running against Trump, but he's really just there as a Trump cheerleader. But I'm going to highlight why Vivek is interesting and actually potentially really dangerous, because even though his campaign went down embarrassing and hilarious in Iowa, because his campaign was centered around racism is a myth, and the only racism that exists is racism against white people, despite him being a Hindu brown person, which is really weird. So he went to Iowa, spent a lot of his own money. He went to every county in Iowa personally twice to campaign straight to the GOP voters to say, you know what, even, Trump might end up in jail or something, so you need an alternative, and I'm your alternative. And in response, we had some exit polling saying some quotes that his last name reminded them of 9/11, that some people thought that he was a Muslim and things like that. So basically, the moral of the story is the GOP is way too racist to allow anyone who is not white to really get their ticket. But I don't think he was trying to ever get the ticket, because like I said, Vivek the entire time was out there basically just licking Trump's boots publicly, even though he was saying he was running against him. So, which is why my theory was he was trying to be vice president, or at least, gain favor, get a cabinet position, because he's so young. He can position himself to be around the party for quite a bit. He could wait for Trump to die and position himself as the heir apparent to Trumpism, which I think is his goal. And I think he largely succeeded, because although he dropped out embarrassingly, he ends his campaign with more money than he started. So he profited big time, put money in his own pockets through whatever shady means he did. And also, he had Donald Trump on the stage with him as he endorses Trump, tries to be vice president, although I agree with Mr. Spivey that Trump is not feeling that, because he feels like he might be upstaged. So I feel like Trump is going to be like, I think this guy's like got a little too much energy and a little too much popularity. So, know your place or wait your turn. But I think that was the strategy, to position himself to be the heir apparent to Trumpism after Trump is inevitably in jail or dies, or, whatever happens to Trump eventually in the future down the road. And that's potentially dangerous, because Vivek is smart to position himself this way. And I don't think anything he did was an accident or a calculation. I think he moved his way and positioned himself to be a potentially very dangerous GOP candidate, to be a smarter, younger version of Trump that should be, somebody we should keep an eye on Vivek. He's interesting. He's young. He's able to get some young voters for the GOP, which both parties struggle with young voters right now. So yeah, that's basically where the Republican race lies right now. It looks like at this point, after the first caucus, Donald Trump is 100% clear the favorite. There's not even a discussion. Haley and DeSantis are so far behind him, they're basically irrelevant at this point. So the only thing that's going to stop Trump is probably prison. And that's kind of a scary proposition for the country, because Trump is already openly talking about how he wants to basically be a dictator. He basically the presidency is his get out of jail free card, literally. So he feels like he got to win to stay out of jail, and then he can, get some retribution on all the people who try to throw him in jail. So it's definitely not looking great. And it's not looking great because the second half of my time I'll use is to pivot to why Trump is even the favorite, because Joe Biden's popularity continues to plummet, and it wasn't good. And even from last week, it's gotten worse, and it continues to get worse. And I have some articles and things to kind of highlight why things are going so poorly for Biden. But the main thing is him and Kamala Harris are basically not making a case for anything. They're going on TV and just saying, hey, we're not Donald Trump, and you got to vote for us because we're not Donald Trump. And that's not going to work this time. And the polls and people's opinions are showing that after 4 years of you not helping them, that's not good enough to just say you're literally not Donald Trump. That's great, but I don't know if that messaging is strong enough to bring voters to the polls. And we have some evidence of that. There was a article they ran in Teen Vogue about Gen Z and young voters. And what I was trying to elaborate last week is, I'm a millennial, but there's a generation under me that is even more checked out of politics than my generation, which ain't great. And their whole thing is not because they don't think Trump is dangerous, but again, they survived 4 years of Trump, and that scare tactic is not going to work. You'd be like, oh, Donald Trump, the world's going to end if Trump is president. That it didn't end. It was, I don't think it was good. I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but a lot of people's world didn't end, and it feels very similar to what their world feels like under Joe Biden, which I feel like, again, is an indictment on Joe Biden for not doing enough policy-wise to distinguish himself from Donald Trump. A few examples of that is the Donald Trump's tax bill atrocious. His bill, it hurt anyone who wasn't a rich billionaire or corporation. It raised everyone else's taxes and cut taxes for the ultra rich. Biden doesn't talk about that. He doesn't hammer Trump on that. You know why? Because Biden left that tax bill in place, and he seems pretty satisfied to leave it as is, because Biden is also very friendly to multinational corporations and the ultra rich. So again, it's a great way he could distinguish himself and say, hey, I'm for the working class, but he's not, because he isn't. Same thing with healthcare. Trump doesn't want healthcare for people, but Biden also hasn't fought for any form of healthcare since he's been in office, not even the public option, which he said he would fight for, and not Medicare for all, which he said he would veto. So you're an enemy to the people on healthcare just as much as Trump, which again doesn't help you distinguish yourself from him to say, hey, you need to vote for me instead of him, when a lot of your policies are similar. So it's very poor messaging from the Biden campaign, even though I agree that he is a better candidate on, just objectively, if we just go issue by issue, but he has to make that case to the American people. And if he doesn't make that case, he can't then blame the American people for not voting for him when he didn't make the case on why they should vote for him, other than Trump's scary, which people know already, and it's kind of redundant. So there's a lot going on with that in terms of the dynamics in the party where they won't allow a primary, like even the GOP, even though the other challengers are getting clobbered, but that is essentially what the Democrats should be doing, having a primary to give people a choice. And if Biden is the overwhelming choice for the Democratic voters, like Trump is for the Republican voters, then just like the GOP, Biden would be fine and we would be going on to the same terrible matchup. But the fact that the Democratic Party didn't even give their voters a choice is very problematic to try to shove. And again, I think Carlos made the point last week, people don't like to be forced to do something. You're telling them like, you need to vote for Joe Biden, whether you like it or not, is not a great selling point. And people will, it's not going to drive people to the polls. And I didn't even touch upon, like I said, the situation in Gaza. Again, Kamala Harris was on The View, not making a very great defense of the administration. They're just saying, oh, we keep telling Netanyahu to stop killing civilians politely. And, you know, that's kind of, oh, it is what it is. And that's not a strong response for people when that's a deal breaker issue for people. You using our tax dollars and we don't have health care, when there's an article today talking about people's health insurance premiums are cutting into their wages. Biden's not talking about helping those people, but he is talking about sending more bombs for Israel to do a disproportionate slaughter of civilians, which that's not how I want my tax dollars spent. So again, until they can shore up their messaging, this is going to be an easy layup for Donald Trump, who, again, I have to reiterate, is not popular. Donald Trump's not a popular, he should be an easy candidate to defeat with the criminal charges, which he's already been president and it didn't work out well for people. Those Trump fanatics do not make up a large mainstream portion of the country, but there are no Biden fanatics. And that's the problem. Like, Trump has fanatics, even though it's a cult, even though it's weird and racist and all that. Those people will go to the polls for that man. He even said this week, like, even if you get sick and die from COVID, you need to go to the polls and vote for me. And those people went to the polls and voted for him. Even though he said you should risk your life and die to go vote for me, those voters did that in Iowa. They overwhelmingly did that. So that's what we're up against. And until the Democrats kind of take that seriously, we're just going to get more Trump. And it's going to be very frustrating when they blame the American people for their loss, when the American people really were very clear that they wanted a different candidate other than Joe Biden.
All right. Now, this is where we get to go back and everybody gets to just wrap up and do whatever you want round robin. And we go 3 minutes with the banker. Go.
Wow. Okay. All right. NFL, Baltimore will play Detroit in the Super Bowl. Okay. Just put it down now. If I'm wrong next week, you'll tell me about it. I know you will. But right now, Green Bay will make it a close game this weekend. But the Texans won't. I think Lamar Jackson gonna roll. They're gonna roll through Houston, man. And the dream of the Houston Texans dream will be over. Okay, so that's my NFL stuff. Politically speaking, man, I can't remember a presidential election now. I started voting in '92. For Clinton was the first president I ever voted for. We had a choice. There was like a Republican primary, there was a Democratic primary, and there were many people running for president. We have no choice as a Democrat now. The Republicans, they got Trump and DeSantis and Nikki Haley or whatever. At least they got 3 people. We have no one. Come on, man. Give me a choice. Give me something. Put Chris Rock up there, Dave Chappelle. Give me somebody. Roger Goodell from the NFL might win. I mean, come on, give me somebody. This is crazy. We have no one. We have no choice. We are like CJ said, like I said last week, we are being told to vote for Biden. I haven't seen Biden or Harris recently. I guess they make comments like about the war or something. I think the last time I saw Kamala Harris, she showed up at the Howard University NCAA basketball game last spring. But I don't see her like out in the communities, or Biden out in the communities, or paying special visits to high schools or middle schools or elementary schools, trying to get the 13-year-olds to stop carjacking people. The country's really in a rough spot right now, and we just don't see our president and our vice president out there enough. I just don't see them. I don't see them. I mean, it seems like, with the fentanyl issue and the drug addiction that's going on, heck, 1 million convenience stores, Wawa what's the other one? Royal Farms and all these convenience stores have popped up where people, it's very convenient for people to drive in, get the gas, get their the great stores. Okay. But for some reason, I'm seeing more drug addicts out in front of these stores scratching and begging for money. It's almost like it's their home place. Is that a symbol of where we're at right now? I don't see my president, my vice president talking about any of these major issues of crime, addiction, education. If they want to talk about something, it always seems to be war or trying to respond to Donald Trump. So at this point, I don't know. I'm just praying for a better tomorrow because right now, politically speaking, Trump's going to run away with this because Biden and Harris just aren't doing a darn thing. And commanders, please don't hire Dan Quinn as your next head coach. That man loses big games all the time.
All right, Mr. Spivey, you are on the on-deck circle. Go.
I agree with a lot of what CJ says. And I will say that the American political system right now is binary. There's two parties. There's Republicans and there's Democrats. And yeah, you have these other candidates like in the third parties like Cornel West. But let's be realistic. There's two parties. And, I hear you, Carlos, and I hear CJ saying, you don't have a choice. Well, you may not have a choice, but both of them are bad. I'm not saying Biden is the best thing going on. And I agree with a lot of the millenniums and everyone else about the war crimes and that Israel is committed genocide and Biden should take a more firmer position regarding this. But what are the consequences for Biden standing up, taking this position? And I'm going to say this, and I really want you to think about it. 2/3 of the people who voted for Trump still believes that the election was stolen. And these are Trump's cult. And if you believe that you endured 4 years of Trump and 4 more years is going to be easy, I think you're sadly mistaken. If Trump goes back into the White House, I think you're looking at Armageddon. Trump has did things that he said he would do. Trump told you that he was going to overturn Roe versus Wade. Trump put Supreme Court justices on the Supreme Court. And what happened? He overturned Roe versus Wade. So you may not have a choice, but Biden is the better of the two. And rest assured, if you think 4 more years are going to be as easy as the first 4, during the first 4, he didn't try to get rid of the FBI. During the first 4, he went after some of his political enemies, but you haven't seen anything. And you talk about Trump going back into the White House. This 2/3 I mentioned that still thinks the election was stolen. Look at what they're doing right now to the judges. They're swatting them. You pick up the phone and you call the Montgomery County Police and say, Jack Smith, the number top prosecutor, just killed his wife, in the hope that the police will go to his house with the guns drawn and that Jack Smith may get killed. Today, Trump was in court and the judge told him to shut up. And he told the judge, put me out. This is the person that you want to go to the White House. I know both of them are bad, and you may not have a choice, but I can tell you one thing. If people sit home and they don't vote because they don't feel they have a choice, and Donald Trump goes into the White House, the only thing I'll say is, may God have mercy on your soul. Because as Obama said, when he went in the first time, Obama said, you wanted him, now you got him.
All right. All right, CJ, you got your final 3 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah, like I said, I largely agree with everything. I just think the anger for some people is misplaced when they are mad at the voters who didn't have a choice. Like I said, if Biden was the strongest candidate, then yeah, I would agree with the logic of, hey, look, I don't like him. He's, but we just got to suck it up. But like, that's a Joe Biden problem. Again, they need to beat Trump. And it's not a hard task, but like they need to get the messaging out that they're better than Trump, which should be easy because, like you said, Trump is a maniac. He is going out saying that he's going to be a maniac when he gets back into office. So I think the guy losing to Trump in the polls is more responsible for losing to Trump than the voters who were open to not voting for Trump if they had anyone to vote for. But like I said, to try to force Joe Biden upon people, I think is irresponsible because of how dangerous Trump is, not because I just don't like Joe Biden. I don't like Joe Biden, but I would easily take a Joe Biden presidency over a Donald Trump presidency because I just think he's objectively more dangerous. But I am not the person who can make that case to the American people. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the Democrats are the people that need to make that case to the American people. And they're doing such a poor job of that. That's what the frustration it is. And then they're getting the anger and flipping that anger to the voters, to the people that are getting screwed over, the people that can't pay their bills, the people being victimized by both parties and administrations. Guess who? It's going to be their fault that Trump is back in, even though we had no choice and no control, that you ran a candidate and insisted that there would be no other choice. And then if he loses, then how is that the voters' fault? Again, like you guys, there was a new poll from Reuters today that came out. Biden is the leading candidate, but after that, 37% of people had other as the candidate, not a specific Democrat. They'll literally take anyone other than Joe Biden who is younger. He can have the identical politics. He could just be younger and more coherent and looks like he could, get through a complete sentence. That'll be helpful. And then again, maybe a little less gung-ho on the genocide thing. Those are two real easy things. You get it like a Gavin Newsom, some generic milquetoast Democrat. Like they're laying around everywhere in Congress. Just that would be a better option for most people in America would prefer that over Joe Biden, but they're ignoring the will of the American people because they want to keep their jobs, their place in the Democratic hierarchy. And so again, I feel like it's really disingenuous, not you, but in some of the other resistance liberals, the people with the crocodile tears who are talking about Biden is, that Trump is so dangerous, while they're willing to roll the dice on the country to allow Trump to be elected. So that's the frustration with a lot of the people saying, wagging their fingers saying, you need to vote for Biden no matter what, when it's not about beating Trump. It's about them keeping their cushy positions in Democratic leadership.
Folks, if you watched this episode, now you know why the show is called The Thought Brothers. We gave you a lot to think about right now today. And until next week, we are the Thought Brothers and we are out of here.
All right. Good night.
Good night, folks.